Hi, this is Rachelle with Scrapcraftastic, and today I'm going to make a very inexpensive reading journal out of a trimmed down composition notebook. I actually cut this one down at the same time that I cut down my art journal. I'll show you here where I use my heavy duty paper trimmer to trim this down to 6 by 9. That makes it easier to work with scrapbook paper, but I also thought that it would be a nice size for a reading journal. This is the reading journal that I initially started with, and I didn't continue. I kind of jumped around from 2022. I did some work in it, then a little bit in 2023, and I kind of just dropped it. Um, my reading is in cycles, so I tend to start reading more towards the end of the year, like now. As the weather changes, I have that time in the spring and summer where I just don't read a lot or listen to audiobooks. I'm thinking that I will do my reading journal a little more loosely than how I was handling it here. So, in this reading journal, it was kind of intimidating. Um, the paper quality is really good. It's really heavy. It's comparable to an Archer and Olive, I think, as far as the paper quality. Um, and I think I just kind of bit off more than I could chew and just fell off when I wasn't reading. This is some of the work that I've done in it. I started out pretty well in the beginning. I don't think I need to track everything that I was tracking in here. Kind of want to just do a page or half a page for whatever book I read. I don't always have something to say or a review or thoughts or opinions that I want to write down, but sometimes I do. And I just felt like a little guilty of wasting this journal for the little bit that I had to say. Now, did have fun creating these layouts. Um, I don't really think I need to do anything monthly. Like here, I started doing monthly stuff. I don't think I really need to do that. Um, I think I can get away with maybe just doing, if I want to decorate heavily, then I can. But for the most part, just put the book cover and my comments, I guess. And then in between, if I want to do something fancy, I can. Um, but yeah, this was a lot of work. And I think that also deterred me from doing more. I don't know what happened here. Um, but yeah. I was gonna do kinda like a Candyland theme here and just write in books as I went through the year, but as you can see, I did not finish. This was my bookshelf. I drew it out and used washi tape for the shelves, and I'm sure I read more than this in 2023. I could always come back and put the book covers in, but yeah, I fell off. Huh, I made it further than I thought. So here we go, March. This was fun to experiment with making the tabs on the pages. I prepared pages for April and May, but didn't do it. So that's where I stopped. So March of 2023. So, I mean, I could easily continue on, but I don't want to right now. So let's see what we can do with this composition notebook. Again, I trimmed it down to 6 by 9. I'm going to cover it similar to the way I covered the previous full-size composition notebook. These are two of the Freebie Fridays that I released recently to the Scrapcraftastic Facebook group. They are still available if you're interested. They're actually half letter size, so 5.5 by 8.5. I did increase the size to hopefully work with this to around a little bigger than 6 by 9 because I want to have some wrap over space. As far as the inside cover, I have a graphic that I want to use, but let's go ahead and work on the outside first, and then we will get to that inside bit. So I'm going to do something a little different from the previous cover. I'm just gonna cut off this left side. I think I'm gonna use her for the front. I was thinking about using her. I don't know which one I wanna use for the front. I guess I'll use this one because it does have more color on it. So I'm only gonna trim off this left edge. So let me get my paper trimmer up here. And I did spray this, let me show you what I sprayed it with. So I sprayed it with this. I'm almost out of this. I've had it for quite a while. And it leaves a texture on the paper. I did print this on my sticker paper. I'll put a link to the sticker paper if I can find the spray. I'll put a link to that and any other tools and supplies that I use that I can find. I will link below. But I'm just gonna trim this off. And that spray kind of seals the color in because this is just an inkjet print. So when I print it on this is the regular sticker paper that I always use. What I did was I chose best print and other matte inkjet papers in the preferences. So it's not always the printer that you use, it's the paper and the settings that you choose. You can get a really good print from a very inexpensive printer, which is the printer that I use for this. The printer, I think, is less than $50. It might have been less than $40. I can't remember. But and it's a printer that they don't even make anymore. It's a 2700 series, HP. You just have to know how to set your printer. Okay, so it looks like this is much wider than I need because I did not take into account this 1/2 inch here. So I think I'm gonna trim off 1/4 of an inch more on this side, and then 1/4 of an inch on that side will wrap around. That'll be fine. I didn't think of that when I was resizing. So let's take about 1/4 of an inch more off, maybe a little bit more, about 3/8 of an inch. So I don't really want to cut off her hand. All right. So if you do this and you resize your graphic, keep in mind that you need to allow for this um the book tape. That's what it actually is. And it's about 3/4 of an inch, a little bit wider. Um, and how much of that's gonna wrap around? Because I want it to be butted up against the edge right there. And I am gonna take my ink and ink this edge so that we don't see any white. Actually could just do this with a marker, a brush marker, a black brush marker. But since I got my ink right here, I'm just gonna do it with that. And hopefully that'll work, okay? And that's just black distress ink from Tim Holtz. And I'll probably stop using that soon. But this notebook kind of got a little beat up on the shelf because I've been moving it back and forth here and there. Um, all right. So I can just peel the backing off and start wrapping this cover because that's what's going to happen. But it's going to wrap right there. Do I want to take some more off? Because she's not quite centered. I hate to cut more. I already inked it, but gotta do what you gotta do because it just doesn't seem right. So let's take a little bit more off. It's probably still not going to be quite centered. Again, that has to do with how I sized it. Let's try it with the pen. So I showed you the ink way. I try to avoid the brush pen because you can slip and make a mistake easy with the brush pen. I generally like to come from the back. That way, if I slip, it'll go on the back. But this is how you do that. All right. Let's hope I don't have to cut it again. but that's real crafting. All right. So let's see. All right. I think that'll be fine. She's still going to be cut off a little bit on the other side, but not too much. It's mostly centered. Okay. So before I try to adhere this to the cover, I'm going to go ahead and sand this a little bit to remove some of the gloss, just to make sure that this sticks fairly well, to give it a better chance of staying in place. I probably could use silicone mat to protect my desk, but I'm just going to go with the wax paper. So I'm just going to lightly fan this. And you can use an emery board for this, a sanding block. I just happen to have some leftover sandpaper from the Dollar Tree. Go ahead and do the other side too. Let's take and wipe this off. I think I've cleaned it off fairly well. Next step, I'm going to use my Scotch glue. I think this is one of the last I have of this Scotch Create glue. So I'm going to use the glue stick and hit the whole cover with it. And it's not, I don't have to worry too much about the edges because I am going to wrap it. And the glue stick gives me time to reposition if I need to reposition. Otherwise, the sticker paper sticks directly to the cover, and yeah, I won't have time to move it around. So this gives me time to line it up. Just peel off part of the backing. Okay, just enough so we can get it started, get it lined up. And I want it right up against that tape. And then we carefully peel the backing away and smooth as you go so you don't get air bubbles. All right, so that's the backing. I'm going to use my ruler, the rounded edge, to burnish that down, make sure it's in place very well. You can also have these old gift cards that I use to smooth things down. All right, so as it stands, this side is still sticky. What I'm going to do is miter the corners. I do have a miter tool. You don't necessarily need this. I just like to use it because for stuff like this, it's more accurate. So even though this is a sticky side, I'm just going to place that down and use a pencil to draw my line. Can't really see it, but I can see it well enough to cut it. And let's draw this line. All right. I'm going to press this down from this side too. Okay. Take the scissors and trim where I drew the line. Just be careful. This is kind of fussy to do. Probably could come in a little closer. The deal with the miter tool is to give you when you trim those corners and you miter it, it's going to reduce the bulk. You leave about an eighth of an inch or maybe about double the thickness of whatever chipboard you're covering so that you don't end up with exposed corners. Now, you could also take these pieces and place them in there to cover the corner if the design is printed all the way to the edge. That would work. In this case, it won't work because my design is not printed all the way to the edge. Now, I could just use the momentum of my cover. I'm going to put a little glue on here. I could just use the momentum of the cover to wrap it around, but because this is already cover that's on the book. It's not gonna be that simple to do that, so I'm just going to manually pull this as tight as I possibly can, but I'm also making sure I don't reposition this cover on here, and then just press that down up against the edge as flat as possible. And I'm gonna take the card and push these pieces down. Shouldn't have to do too much work on that because it's on sticker paper, so that little bit is gonna stick easily on its own. Okay. Oops. And this is so much easier than trying to trim it exactly the size of the cover. It gives you some more wiggle room. So, yeah, and when you have that mitered edge with a little bit extra, you have a nice clean corner. Okay. All right, let's do this one. Let's press that down and fold that over. We can come in and really press everything down. You can also use your bone folder to do that. And then I'm just going to run it along the edge and make sure that's adhered well. Burnish, burnish, burnish. So now all I have to do is come in and cover this with whatever. Um, but that is the cover. Now this one, unlike the other one, has these squared corners. I'm thinking, I wish I had some black ones. That would be nice. Um, and I think I did change the color of some before with a black alcohol ink. I want to use these big ones on another project. I have so many of these teeny tiny book corners. Maybe I'll use these, but I'll have to put these on after I do the inside cover. But I'm thinking, yeah, that I can use these little book corners. They're tiny, but I think they could work, and I need to use them. And I may even try going over them with some ink. I think I have an alcohol marker that might work. We'll see. So that's where we're going with that. And I got these book corners. I think most of these came from Amazon. I'll try and link to it in the description box below. I may have gotten a few from Temu, but I'm pretty sure the majority came from Amazon. But that is the front cover. So I think that came out really nice. We're gonna do the back. Um, but all you need is a halfway decent printer, some sticker paper. If you want to treat the cover with the spray, you could do that. You could use Mod Podge or some other type of sealant. I think that would be great, especially if you're using an inkjet printer. It also gives it a nice coat, and I think it makes it a little more water resistant. So, and I don't know, it just makes it sturdier. Feels kind of like a plasticky, has a plasticky feel. All right. And then just glue it, a glue stick, and yeah, you're all set. Okay. Since there's no defined border around this, I am going to use the width of this to determine how much I need to trim off of this side. So I think I need to cut off at least 1 3/8. Let's see, maybe even 1 1/2. Let's do 1 1/2. Let's see how that goes. Oh yeah, and you'll need a paper trimmer, um, or just a ruler and a blade, an X-Acto knife. This is really, really not hard at all. The sticker paper makes it so much easier. Oh yeah, and the sandpaper, you can just use an emery board or something for that part as well. Okay, so she's gonna go a little something like this. So where we cut off the excess on the left before, because we're doing the back, we cut it off on the right. Peel the backing off on that side as well. And I'm not gonna go over the edge with the marker or ink on this side. since the bulk of this design is white, it's not going to look strange for the white edge to show. Now, I see an issue here where I probably should have did a design that was, maybe I could have used the same design on the front and the back, because I think because this is white, you can see through it a little bit, and I probably should have cut more off on that side, but it's too late now. And again, you don't need the miter tool. I just use it because gives me a little consistency with my corners. I don't always use it, especially when I'm making junk journals. But for this, I want it to be nice and neat. And I know that I wouldn't get it the same on either side. Now, what you could do is once you trim off one side, if you're not using a tool, you could just take that triangular piece and use it to measure the other side. And I didn't cut that well at all. It's a little difficult to handle because the paper is sticky and because it's on the book, but it's worth it. I should have cut some more off the other side so much of her wouldn't have flipped over the edge, but it will have to do. It's not quite centered. Just thinking, do I want to use scrapbook paper on the inside, or do I want to use more digital sticker paper? Now this corner is kind of close. I didn't leave as much space when I cut it a little bit wonky, but it's still enough to cover the corner. I think we're good. I got little scraps of paper all over the place from another project. Let's burnish this down really well. Hit those edges. All right, so she's off kilter. I could have done a better job on that, but luckily it's the back. That would have been perfect if I could have got it straight. Um, and then what happened here? Oh, I didn't move her down far enough. See here? I should have moved her down a little bit more because you can see the white line. So I didn't position it very well. This one was harder to do because she's on a white background. This one was a little easier. So keep that in mind when you're making yours. If you have a hard edge like this, make sure that it's lined up properly. Now I could probably go around the edge with some ink and disguise that. All right. I wonder if this is going to work out the way that I hope. I think I have more fun decorating and creating than I actually do using. We'll see how it goes. But I won't feel so bad because even the other notebook was like $8 on Amazon. I'll link to those if they still sell them. I'll link to it in the description box below. This is a 50 cent or less composition notebook that I just trimmed down to this size. So I think I feel a little bit better about using it or maybe not using it. We'll see what happens. All right. I don't think I'm going to be able to tolerate that line. So I took out my archival ink and one of my ink brushes, and I'm just going to go around the edge. And I'm also thinking if I hit this edge as well, that will help kind of pull the black over a little bit more. So there will be an illusion that she's in the center. So it's not going to be crisp and clean. It's going to have a grungy look. When I'm using the archival ink, it's kind of purplish. But I'm using the archival ink because, yeah, it's not true black. I'm gonna have to go over it a couple of times. Or maybe I should use Stays On. Let's use the Stays On. The archival ink is supposed to be permanent, where the distress ink is activated with water. Okay, here we go. Stays On. Let's try that one. Probably should have used one of my finger daubers, but I thought the brush might be a little more effective. put some scrap paper in here. And then here's my other scrap that I'm going to use on the tape to kind of protect it. Even though it's black, I don't want to get too much ink on it. Oh, that's too much. That's not working out. Let's try a dauber, finger dauber. Gives me a little bit more control. So I hope the ink doesn't react to that tape and cause it to come up. So we'll see what happens. So I'm gonna give that time to dry. Gotta get the edges really well. I mean, it's still not centered, but it looks a little bit better. I printed this on the sticker paper once again, approximately the size that I needed, and I did too. So I'm gonna do the same design for the inside front cover and inside back cover. All I need to do is trim these down and stick them on. Again, I'm gonna use glue stick for that. I don't think I'm gonna go all the way to the edge because that's gonna cause bulk and it's probably gonna keep it from closing as easily, even though we're already kind of popping open here. But I'll try to get as close as I can. And I'm not gonna try and make it go all the way to the edge. I'm gonna leave a little border around. So we'll see how that looks. Let's get to trimming this down and adding these. Okay, so even though I said I wasn't gonna go so close, I did it anyway. And it does cause it to pop open a little bit, but I think over time, once that stays in place long enough, it will relax. So that's the back cover. So that's the back inside, and this is the front inside. I think I will add some type of pockets. I would love to be able to add a clear pocket with a flap. However, I don't know that I can do that with laminate. I do have some of those self-adhesive clear pockets. I guess I could just use that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What type of pocket should I add? I think it turned out pretty nice. What do you think? I think it's nice. A nice reading journal. I like the vintage look of the books on the inside, and then the more modern twist on the outside. We have a 6x9 composition notebook. If you don't have the means or desire to cut down a notebook and you want to try something like this, Amazon does sell these composition notebooks. They come in a 6 pack. They're Oxford Craft, and I did do a video previously showing how to cover one of these. I'll link to that in the iCard up above. And I'll also link to the other composition notebook that I did in this size that I used as a craft journal. That will be in the description box below. And I'll try to put it in the iCard as well. So we're going to stop here for now. Let me know what you think about the pockets on the inside. Any suggestions of things you would like to see me do? Any DIYs you would like to see on the inside? I'm thinking maybe, even though I'm going to do a pocket, maybe some type of folder. And I'm not sure about dividers, if that's going to be necessary. I might do some dashboards in here. But yeah, let me know your opinions, your thoughts, and we will try and work on those in the future. Will you be trying something like this? Let me know in the comments as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you may be interested in this other video. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.